The Heartless Gold Digger. Once there lived a beautiful lady by the name Wangari who lived with her mother in a village in Nyeri area. She had finished her Form 4 and was just hanging around in the village doing nothing but flirting around with men and scamming money out of them. She was so lovely that men, including the married ones, found it hard to resist her overtures. She used her beauty to lure men and do her bidding, which included giving her large amounts of money. Her mother was known as Injeri and she was a single mother, having borne her children who totaled to 3 out of wedlock. However, Injeri was a virtuous woman who believed in the importance of industry and self-reliance, and also that having less that you have earned honestly is better than living off of other people's sweat. Injeri did odd jobs for people that included digging on other people's farms, and from her proceeds had bought 2 calves which soon grew up on her strip of land, and when they matured, became pregnant. Things were looking up for Wangari's mother. Wangari was 19 and she started an affair with a local married businessman whom she fleeced off of money. This continued until she turned 20 when she met a handsome, virtuous young man by the name Enjorej. Enjorej was a 26-year-old accountant who worked at a local high school and lived in a rented room in the local shopping center. When Wangari met Enjorej, he ruthlessly broke up with the businessman, citing threats from his wife, but deep down she knew that she had achieved her goal of milking him dry. Enjorej's father owned 2 shops as well as some rental houses which would become Enjorej's upon his father's death, and this must have been what had drawn Wangari to him. Wangari pretended to love Enjorej, who was smitten by her beauty. Even after hooking up with Enjorej, Wangari started another romantic fling with a local member of County Assembly (MCA), whom she treated as her ATM. Very soon, rumors of Wangari's affair with the MCA started doing rounds in the village, and soon Injeri, Wangari's mother, was in the know. One evening, she sat down with her daughter and tried to reason with her. "Wangari, my daughter, what is this I hear about you fooling around the married man, our MCA?" asked a pained Injeri. "Don't you know that what you are doing could come back upon your head in future, and your own marriage could be ruined the same way?" asked her mother. "Please find a man and stop having affairs with married men," counseled her mother, but to no avail. Very soon, the MCA's wife found out about the affair between Wangari and her husband, and together with 2 other women, decided to confront Wangari. This, however, did not deter Wangari, who was determined to milk more money from the politician. Enjorej, however, never got to learn about this and was blinded by his infatuation towards the beautiful Wangari. Wangari would even demand money from him, and when he said he did not have any money, she would threaten to break up with him. Enjorej, a virtuous and honest accountant, was even tempted to steal from the school he worked for by altering the accounts books, but he restrained himself. One day, he met a lady who worked as a secretary in another high school, a lovely 21-year-old woman by the name Muthoni, with whom they started a casual friendship. Muthoni knew all about Wangari's escapades, and whereas Wangari depended on men for money, Muthoni worked with her own hands and depended on the work of her hands to make a living. In fact, Muthoni turned down some offers by other men for money and stuck to her virtues. Wangari and Muthoni were not on talking terms due to their different views on life. 5 weeks after Enjorej first met Muthoni, Muthoni overheard Wangari conversing over the phone with a man who worked as a businessman in Nairobi. Wangari had just enrolled in a college to study beauty and hairdressing and would be through with her course after 1.5 years. After her course, she was employed in a salon in the local shopping center and afterwards opened her own hair salon. Muthoni clearly had Wangari flirting with the person on the other end of the line and planned with him to go on holiday to Mombasa. Muthoni went straight to see Enjorej, her friend, and told him of his girlfriend's deception. Enjorej did not believe it and Muthoni had to leave. 2 days after that, Wangari informed Enjorej that she would be traveling to visit her sick aunt who lived in another district, but in reality, she had gone on holiday to Mombasa with her sugar daddy. 1 week later, she came back and life continued as usual. The next day, Enjorej was taking a walk in the shopping center when he spotted a beautiful girl stepping out of a Mercedes-Benz. Enjoraj hid behind a building and saw his girlfriend Wangari kissing and hugging a idle-aged man before they both bid each other farewell. The next day, Wangari met Enjoraj and demanded a sum of 10,000 Kenya shillings, and Enjoraj obviously could not afford that amount of money. She heartlessly broke up with him. Enjoraj rushed to meet Muthoni, whom he considered like his sister, and figuratively cried on her shoulder. Muthoni had him out and even heard of the way she had been seen alighting from a sugar daddy's Mercedes-Benz car. One day, a week after Wangari had broken up with Enjoraj, she woke up one morning to look at herself in the mirror and could not believe her eyes. She stood before the mirror in shock, mouth agape, for before her was the hideous reflection of her own self. She had turned hideous. As she went out into the village, people stared at her in horror, for she had turned hideous. Moreover, she had grown thin. All the men in her life disowned and abandoned her. Her only saving grace was her salon business, which was thriving. Enjoraj came to learn of Wangari's horrific transformation, and he was torn between pitying her and feeling relieved at the way karma had dealt with her. 1 week later, he approached Muthoni for a date and she agreed. During the coffee date, she proposed to her and she heartily accepted. They soon married, and Wangari, who heard of it, regretted treating Enjoraj so badly. Enjoraj and Muthoni moved to Nairobi City, where Muthoni got a job as a secretary in a law firm and Enjoraj was employed as an accountant in a multinational chain of supermarkets. In Nairobi City, they bought a 2-story maisonette and both lived happily ever after.